thanks for tuning in. Hey, once again, it's me, Curtis Carte here. Welcome to the channel. And I'm gonna be reading from my first story. It'll be Dark Space, Dark Space, the complete series. It's a 6-book series. It's $2 or it's definitely under $5 on Amazon if you wanted to read along. And I'm just going to start off with the prologue here just to give you a little tasty taste of what you're in for. So here we go. Prologue of Dark Space. A vast backdrop of stars sparkled all around Ethan's head. Just on the other side of the Nova Interceptor's thin transpiranium cockpit canopy. The stars seemed so close he could touch them. But Ethan couldn't allow himself to be distracted by the view. He targeted the nearest enemy fighter and brought the red brackets under his crosshairs. His ears picked up the soft click of a laser light even before his eyes registered the crosshair turning green. He pulled the trigger and held it down, pouring a continuous stream of bright red pulse lasers into his target. Then the laser charge gauges began flashing red on his HUD, and the stream of fire diminished to a slow trickle. Ethan eased up on the trigger and switched over to missiles just as his target began jinking out of line. You're going to hear a lot of made-up sci-fi words, so just be aware. Jinking was one of those words. Enemy ripper fire sizzled off his rear shields, and Ethan broke into an evasive pattern. Forgetting about his target for the moment, the sound of ripper fire hitting his shield stopped, only to start again from the other angle when a second junker swooped down onto his 6. Ethan craned his neck to get a visual reference on the enemy fighters. They were converging on him from completely opposite directions. A pincer maneuver that was sure to get him killed. A little help over here? I'm caught in a vice. Roger that, 5-7. Roger that, 5-7 said. This is over the mic. Ethan tried to hold it together as enemy fire sizzled off his shields, turning them dark green, then yellow, and finally red. Now shells plinked off his hull as shields were unable to completely dissipate the energy of those projectiles. The streams of enemy fire on his port side ceased, followed by "That got him" from Guardian 7. Now, with only one fighter attacking him, Ethan strengthened his shields on the starboard side and circled around to line up on the enemy fighter's tail. A few moments later, he poured freshly charged pulse lasers into the twin hulls of a blocky junk fighter, whose starboard maneuvering jet was already flickering dimly. Unable to evade him, the junker took heavy fire. One of his shots punched through to the reactor, and the enemy fighter suddenly exploded, sending the twin hulls flaming off in opposite directions. "I need help!" Gina screamed. Guardian 3 came on saying, 4 enemy fighters just broke off from the main group. They're lining up for another pass on the Defiant. Get them! Get them before... The comm died in static. Lead? Ethan quickly checked his scopes. A second later, Ithacus came back saying, "I'm all right, got winged by a bit of shrapnel. No major damage. Those four fired off a volley of torps at a point-blank range. Dumb freckers." That's more on that sci-fi, fake cursing. The command channel sounded in the next instant. With Guardians, We need a better screen than that. Doing the best we can, Control, 3 shot back. We're down by 5 and there are at least 2 enemy squadrons out here. Where are your gunnery crews? Cannons are coming online any minute. We don't have a minute, Ethan thought to himself. 6, where are you? He asked, remembering that she'd called for help. He spent a moment checking his scopes for Gina without any luck. A cold fist seized his heart, but then he found her, cutting an evasive pattern toward the valley. A pair of enemy interceptors pouring golden streams of ripper fire on her tail. Those 2 were fast for junkers. She was having trouble shaking them. I'm right here where you left me, you dumb cacker. That's more of that made up stuff. I don't suppose I still have a wingman out there somewhere. She was a little sassy with that one. Ethan grimaced. He wasn't used to working in teams. Sorry, on my way now. He came about and boosted with the last of his afterburners to catch up to the enemy interceptors. Once in range, he switched to Hellfire missiles and quickly dropped one on the enemy's tails. A second later, he realized his mistake, as he noticed the proximity between the enemy interceptors and Gina's own Nova. Gina, get out of there. I just fired a Hellfire in your pursuit. Frack you. My afterburners are tapped out. What do you want me to do? Ethan thought fast, even as the blue trail of Hellfire's primary thrusters winked out. The enemy fighters realized their peril and broke off from Gina to go evasive, but they were still too close. Reverse thrust, Ethan said. They might lock onto me if I do that, Gina shot back. Frack, Ethan thought. Hold on. Hold on, because he's talking. He thumbed over to pulse lasers and targeted the distant missiles, hoping he could get it before it exploded into its 4 smaller warheads. At this range, his targeting computer refused to lock onto the missile. Desperate, Ethan raked blind laser fire over the target brackets. Nothing happened. An instant later, the Hellfire exploded into 4 separate directions, and Ethan felt a stab of fear. Sweat trickled on into his left eye, and he swiped at it with the back of one hand. Blinking to clear his vision. The smaller warheads flared to life and boosted after the enemy fighters. They're too close, she said. Ethan could hear a tremor in Gina's voice. Give me a second, he said, and switching fire to the warhead, arcing closer to Gina. He hit it with a lucky shot, and the resultant explosion tore into the nearest enemy fighter, drawing flames and debris from its thruster pods. Gina's fighter rocked in the shockwave. Then the other 3 warheads found their marks, and the remaining 2 enemy fighters exploded in blinding fireballs. Ethan heard Gina scream, and then her comm cut off in static. Gina? Gina! Ethan screamed into the mic. The static hissed on, and Ethan felt a horrible chill creeping down his spine. Frack! His heart pounding, Ethan checked his scopes, but they'd fuzzed out due to the proximity of the explosions. He flew through the expanding debris clouds and ignored the sounds of shattered uranium pelting his fighter. His forward shields quickly dropped into the red, and he feared what that meant for Gina. Gina! He tried again. Then he saw her. One of her 3 engines still glowing blue, the other 2 flickering. Her starboard stabilizer fin had been knocked off, and he could see her cockpit canopy was striated with fractures. Gina, for immortal's sake, answer me. A moment later, her voice came back to him, but she sounded weak. I'm alive. Took a hit through my canopy. My suit's pissing air. Crack. How badly are you injured? Not much blood, but breathing hurts like a motherfrecker. Maybe 2 broken ribs. Fly back to the Defiant. I'll cover you. I'll never make it. Not on half thrust. Too many enemy fighters. Ethan gritted his teeth. Well, frick it. You just gonna give up and die? No answer. Ethan switched the hull of the Valiant. Ethan watched the hull of the Valiant growing large before them. In his periphery, he spotted the Defiant's beam cannons opening up as the cruiser made her first pass on the Valiant's port hangar. 8 blue diamond beams shot out, drawing rippling waves from the hangar shields. A few seconds later, Ethan saw Nova fighters tearing out of the carrier's launch tubes. Are those our Novas coming from the Valiant? Gina asked. Ethan shook his head. We don't have anyone left on board. Oh shoot, she's sick. Hold on. Are those our Novas coming from the Valiant? Gina asked. Ethan shook his head. We don't have anyone left on board. We took everyone except for the Sentinels with us. So those are enemy Novas. Frick. Ethan had no reply for that. By now, Brondi had overwhelmed the 6 Sentinels in the concourse between the carrier's ventral hangars, and he was taking control of the ship, including its considerable complement of Nova fighters and interceptors. Gina's right, thinking to himself, we won't make it back to the Defiant. No one will. And that is the prologue from Dark Space, the complete series. If you enjoyed that, be sure to tune in. Again, I'm not sure what I'm going to, I haven't decided on a regular schedule, but, once or twice a week, you'll get a notification. If you follow me, definitely follow and subscribe and tap and all that, because who knows where you're watching this. I'm on all the things. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. There'll be more where that came from. And I'll be doing this book, short stories, other books. Maybe I'll dabble in other genres. I might do a different genre per day. Who knows? Poems, all those things. But yeah, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Watching and listening. Hope you enjoyed it. And stay tuned for the next one. Bye.